So I'll say once again, good morning, beloved community.
Good morning. Good morning.
Or is it be loved community? So in discussing beloved community last time, I shared a picture which, if you can bring up the what was referred to as the Pink Floyd picture, depending on what era you grew up in. And I asked each of you, well, first of all, so we talked about in this picture that white light is all light mixed together. It's all light mixed together. And just like as spirit, the spirit that we are comes into form, into our human beingness, is like going through the prism, God coming through our human beingness. And when we are a human being, then we express particular attributes of God. And we each have our strengths and our purposes in how we express those attributes of God. And so we, in this community, are a rainbow. And isn't that interesting that one divine mind? Does anybody remember what I asked you to do on the last lesson regarding the rainbow of our community? Yeah.
We were to identify a color and to go and talk to somebody about the color that you thought that they expressed as their attributes.
Correct. So I hope you're still doing that. I hope that when you come into the door, my beloved community, that you indeed see the different attributes of God being expressed as each individual here. And that instead of spending time talking about the differences of those colors, that we all come together and recognize that we are all colors and represent in unity and community the white light of God. So I want you to pick yourself a color this morning, and I'll come back to that. Pick yourself a color. All right, you know how I always love to ask questions. What's today's lesson title? I know you're going to get used to that. Heaven on earth, here and now. So with so many people in our community who have taken the science of mind classes in philosophy, what is heaven? State of mind, okay. So it's not a location. And even with a state of mind for myself, it makes it sound like, well, if we just do a little brainwashing here and drink the Kool-Aid, we can all say that we're here on heaven on earth right here and now, right, everybody? So when we say mind, what do we mean about a state of mind? And really, your mind cannot know everything, although we sometimes drive ourselves crazy thinking we can understand perhaps other people's behaviors, such as in Florida. But our mind can't comprehend that. The heart can actually, if I use the word, comprehend things that our mind cannot. So I like to say that heaven is really a state of being. And it is already deep within you at your core. Why? Because you're all expressions of God. It is already within you at your core where you are perfect, whole, and complete. And it matters not what has happened to you. There is nothing that can touch that pure core of God that lies deeply within you. And so when we say heaven is really a state of being, that's why we can say heaven on earth is right here and now. And that really sometimes maybe not easily, we just need to reveal what already exists in us, as us, and through us. So why is the kingdom of God at hand? When you think of it as a location, then that's sort of complex in the mind. But if heaven on earth, here and now, is within you, then it is right here, right now. That may not mean we're all expressing it, but the potentiality is here and now. So, with all of that, what would heaven on earth look like right here now today as you walked in the door?
Peace.
Peace, joy.
Absence of lack or limitation.
Absence of lack or limitation.
Harmony.
Harmony. Love.
Smiles.
Smiles. You read the energy in people's expression, right? Yeah. And of course that's seen through the eyes, but then we can, with the heart, and if scientifically you're interested, there is a place called Heart Math that talks about the heart expression, and that we do communicate heart to heart. It's not just an expression. It's scientifically there. So, who picked the color blue for themselves? I knew I'd get a lot of people because last time I asked that question, I had a lot of blue. So I want to ask, does heaven on earth for you who chose blue mean that all people will only express the color blue? You're all laughing. No, why not? Well, I mean, yes, we need that expression, do we not? Then why is it when we disagree with each other, we don't seem to think that way? Right? And it's the political season. I know it's hard. But, well, I'll get to that. I'll get to that. So, again, if you chose the color blue, would you need everyone to have the same words, the same processes in order to have peace and harmony when you walk in the door? No. So, do you get we want this color? We want this color, but do we want it our way? Do we want everybody to see it our way? So would everyone share the exact same perspective on life? We've all been through so many different things. It's not meant to be robotic. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. And why do we get so bothered then when people don't see it our way? Or even for the gay community, for a while, it was tolerate. Is tolerate different than compassion? I had a very serious conversation with one of my running mates yesterday who was basically saying, well, even I can tolerate a different perspective. But for me, tolerate is still, remember when I had the coin and I came down the middle and I said, describe the coin on this side of the room, describe the coin on this side of the room, and it's not the same? Tolerate's like, okay, I'll stay over here and I'll tolerate your difference. That's not the same as switching chairs and standing in each other's shoes. There's a little bit of being able to hold what it is that's your perspective, but also being able to share in somebody else's shoes. So is tolerating others heaven on earth? So here's what I'm really after. Other people do not have to change in order for you to experience heaven on earth. Heaven on earth begins with a transformation from within about how you perceive people's different thoughts, approaches, opinions, being different from your own. Do you take it in like the rainbow? Ah, there's another wonderful expression of God. Oh, there's another wonderful expression of God. Trump, Clinton. I'm just using that as examples. I'm not really much of a political person, but it does demonstrate how we can't tolerate or how we'll try to tolerate rather than look at the rainbow. And there is probably an essence of truth in every person's perspective, if we choose to look at it that way. Next slide. So, you know, it's hard to get a picture of heaven on earth. But for me, this is in Lithia Park in Ashland, Oregon. And there's a lot of rocks in that creek, and a lot of different colors, a lot of different shapes, a lot of different spirit expressing in that picture. Do you think they tolerate each other? That's not really the feeling we usually get when we sit by that creek, is it? When we sit by that creek, if we take it in, we probably feel a sense of, well, for me, unity in how all that beautifully comes together, a place of peace. And perhaps there I can experience heaven on earth. So the colors of the rainbow will always going to have different perspectives. And until we can feel the peace and harmony with all those variations, you won't be able to bring out the heaven and earth in you right here and now. So maybe a deeper example is it's really about how you experience life. And I'll use the area of relationship because it's the easiest subject when we talk about community. But of course, I'm talking really about all aspects of life, and I'll talk about what those aspects may be later. But have you ever been angry, upset, hurt, or frustrated with somebody else because you think the other person is doing you wrong? The room goes silent. I don't want to admit to that. Let me count the ways. Yes. And you think it's the other person who should change so you can be happy. No. It's not going to happen because we're all not going to be blue. But we do it over and over. I've been practicing science of mind for a very long time. I still do it. So a lot of people would say, well, when you're experiencing that anger, upset, hurt, frustration, whatever it may be, you may need a time out. But thank you, April. You really need a time in. A time in. Why time in? Because that's where heaven on earth resides. And even in the wake of this Florida experience, you know, the media, of course, just makes it so that more folks get the idea of that this is the way to try to solve something. And the media is typically very visual. Of course, we're reading also. And I also had a discussion with my running buddy yesterday about, we were talking in particular about the gentleman who raped, the Stanford swimmer who raped the woman. And I was basically saying they all, including the perpetrator, needed to be surrounded in love and light. And the person wanted to say, but it wasn't right what that individual did and what he got. And I said, that is not mine to do. If my purpose were to be in the criminal justice system, then that might be my work to do. But what is my work to do based on not being, that's not where I reside? The heaven on earth is to close my eyes, to go within, time in, to find that heaven on earth that is within me, and to surround all individuals, both sides of the families, based on their perspectives and what they think he deserved and didn't deserve. Compassion. I believe my job is to continue to surround those people with love. But that means spending time in. That means shutting out what this sense wants to tell me and what my brain wants to make sense out of, and to go within, beyond the mind. Thoughts are things. Being in that space will make a difference. How will it make a difference? So I talked in my last lesson about this book called The 21 Skills of Spiritual Intelligence, SQ21. And I still sometimes struggle a little bit with spiritual intelligence, because then it's like, oh, how do I get smarter? Okay. The idea is, how do we grow? How do we spiritually grow? How do you know that you're spiritually growing? Any measurements? Your manifestations in your life, and it's not just manifestations, because then it would be somebody else is going to change when I do my prayer. Yes. So what did I say last week, and I'm going to have you repeat it with me. On page 10, spiritual intelligence is, so say with me, the ability to behave, with wisdom and compassion, while maintaining inner and outer peace. Regardless of the situation.
Regardless of the situation. That sounds like mindfulness to me.
And so it may be. Immediately when I continue to read that over and over, I just think even about Dr. Martin Luther King, Gandhi. Why are they seen as these spiritual models in human form? Jesus, you can name the folks. What this woman tried to do is not take a particular religion's flavor, but say, what is it that we recognize the spiritual intelligence of somebody? And how can we move to that model and expression? So this is why the time in order to grow the ability to behave with wisdom and compassion, regardless of the situation. And that we can maintain inner and outer peace regardless. Is that heaven on earth here and now? So what behavior do you want to model in the world? Or maybe I should take the want out and say, what behavior do you model in the world? And what do we want to model at this center? Because it's really the modeling that speaks louder than the words, right? Typically in our humanness, frequently our ego wants to make things uncomfortable for somebody else who seems to be wronging us or doing something to us that we don't think is right. Ego wants to make up lots of stories on how and why things are like they are, talking about the past that is no longer here, The past is no longer here. There can be some freedom in that if we can move ourselves to the space of heaven and earth within. Matter of fact, not only does ego make up stories, but there is an article in Inc. magazine, many of you probably recognize that magazine, that says, "This neuroscience hack can make you unstoppable." And I'm happy to spread the article. Maybe I'll actually have Crystal back there put it on our social media. The brain recreates your memories based on what you believe. We all think that our memories are the reality of what happened. No. Nope. That's not what science is finding. Science is finding that you create your memories based on what you want to see. So if you were a victim as a child and that has not been healed, you will continue to make memories about being a victim, creating circumstances of being a victim. But what I love about the article is, and you can train your brain to create memories to automatically propel you forward. Now that's power. That's taking yourself out of, no, I'm not a child anymore, and I don't have authority figures to tell me how to live my life. Although, isn't that what happens in our head? The old tapes go round and round. We have the opportunity to automatically state our intention and allow our memories to begin providing a very powerful force to propel us in where we want to go, which is no longer a victim. And I hate to say the word victor because then it sort of assumes there's a victim, but that's not the case. Emma Curtis Hopkins says, "The world will persist in exhibiting before you what you persist in affirming the world is." And she lived a long time ago, and now science is talking about it. So, people are really just messengers of God in action. And sometimes, how would I know what was going to transpire last night to say today? Sometimes we kill the messenger. That doesn't erase the message that we need to hear and learn. We blame other people and make ourselves be in that victim situation just based on how we think they should treat us, when we can actually take the power back. Again, spiritual intelligence, the ability to behave with wisdom and compassion while maintaining inner and outer peace regardless of the situation. Next slide. So I know this is a lot for a slide, but as mentioned, Sherry Line Coyle did order books, and the books are in if you're interested. And this is in the book, of course. You'll notice there are 4 quadrants, and I'm going to go through this really quickly just based on time. But the 4 quadrants are self, you notice the capital S, and self with the little s, awareness. Higher self and the ego self. How aware are we of ourselves? And then, and I'll continue in lessons to bring these to light. And so if you do get the book, it'll be fun to engage in more discussion about that. So you see the awareness of your own worldview, and understanding that may not be the awareness of other people in the world. Awareness of your life purpose, of the values that you hold, of the complexity of your thought based on beliefs and subconscious, the awareness, again, of your ego, while universal awareness is your awareness of interconnectedness, the oneness that we are. Now, we say oneness a lot. We don't always behave oneness. Awareness of worldviews of others. You know, I was raised a Catholic, and I could never understand how folks raised in the Middle East who believed in a loving God were going to be condemned to hell because they didn't believe in Jesus. It just never made sense to me. So how do we become aware of other world views, faiths, and beliefs? And do we tolerate them? Or do we recognize that we are all spiritual beings and we have a common goal, wisdom and compassion, inner and outer peace? So there's breadth of time perception, awareness of our limitations and our own human perception. Again, can the mind perceive all things? We sometimes act like it can. Awareness of spiritual laws and experience of the transcendent oneness. Quadrant 3 is self and self-mastery. So it's one thing to know yourself in the world. Does that mean you have the discipline to do your spiritual practice so that you may grow your spiritual skill set? How committed are you to your spiritual growth? Do you allow your higher self to be in charge? Do you live the purpose and the values that you are meant to express in your human experience here? Do you sustain your faith through thick and thin? And do you seek guidance from higher self? And then the last quadrant, social mastery and spiritual presence. Again, sort of mixing, though, once you are self-aware and universal aware, you can have discipline with self and then discipline with interacting with others. You know, our motto is Chico New Thought Center for Spiritual Living, where we are living, loving, and learning together. I'd like to change that a tad. I'd like to change that to where we are loving, living, and learning together. Next slide, please. So where do you begin in spiritual growth? Well, I showed you that quadrant of all those things. It's not like you just live your life doing those particular skills. You're actually living your life and applying that skill set to your living. So you can actually begin anywhere. You can begin with education. You can begin with your mindfulness of your body. You can begin with your spiritual practice. And I put technology with time management, and I'll explain that in a minute. You can practice with people and relationships, with the state of your money, finances, and your estate, or creativity. And by the way, I've had people tell me, oh, I have no creativity. And I go, you know, you work for me and you problem solve all the time, right? Yeah. Well, problem solving takes creativity. Different way of thinking about creativity. So what I plan to do is to schedule in the fall monthly community circles. And the community circles will meet once a month as a discussion forum in these particular areas. And I'm sure some will be more popular and some will be less popular. Why? Because we're a community in unity. And if we want to practice spiritual growth and practice that spiritual skill set that we'll continue to use this book as a foundation for, this is an opportunity to be in community, to begin in an area that you may find. Now, what I like to do for folks is if you pretend that the center of that pie is a 0 and that the outer circle is a 10, then I could say, in education, how comfortable am I in my education? How, strengths and weaknesses, let's see, for people in relationship, I'll give myself a 5, so I would put a dot in the middle of the pie. For education, I might put it high. For spiritual practice, I'll put it about a 7. And when you get a dot in every single one of those circles, wherever the dot is from 0 to 10, then I want you to connect the dots. And if that were to become a wheel, it would probably be and so the whole concept is, will you choose an area that will help make wholeness? Because we sometimes, let's say it's money, because money tends to be lots of, that's a common one, as well as relationship with triggers, right? Or job, which you could look at as creativity also. Those areas are the triggers. And then we say, oh, I don't want to work on that area. Which is fine. No judgment there. But as far as having a well-rounded, whole, and complete growth pattern, what do they say? The chain is, the link. Thank you. Say that again. The chain is only as strong as the weakest link. The chain, the circle is only as strong as the weakest link. So, in summary, what is heaven on earth? What is heaven? A state of being. Being. Can you have heaven on earth right here and now? Because where is it? Within you. Because it is within you. And together, my beloved community, I look forward to us continuing to grow and develop our spiritual nature so that we may, as a community, grow our spiritual intelligence, the ability to behave with wisdom and compassion while maintaining inner and outer peace, regardless of the situation. Namaste.